So I got out of downtown Pittsburgh, and I'll tell you what, these suburban Pittsburgh neighborhoods, they're a slice of old Americana. Good spot to watch 49ers tape right behind me, the Doorstop Cafe. It was, I had this surf and turf Benedict, and then I had these Pittsburgh style potatoes, which I heard they use a lot of grease and oil for, but they were really, really good. I'm full now, and I'm ready to talk about the 49ers performance yesterday. And how about we start with the defensive line, because there's these ridiculous takes and this happens, I feel, after every single game, but yesterday's ridiculous takes surrounded Nick Bosa and to a smaller extent Eric Armstead, because neither of those two guys had a sack. So people are saying, oh, they didn't play that well. Nick Bosa didn't show up, he didn't have a sack. Guess who PFF's highest graded defender for the 49ers was? Nick Bosa. Eric Armstead was in the top 5 too. Guys, smart football viewers do not just look at the box score and say, oh, he didn't have a sack, and say that a defensive lineman played poorly. That is not how it works. Nick Bosa was getting chipped, double teamed all game, yet coming off the holdout, he still impacted the game in a huge way. There's a reason why Drake Jackson had the opportunity to grab those 3 sacks. And 2 of them, and Dennis Jackson came on the show last night. Dennis Jackson is Drake Jackson's dad, and he said he told Eric Armstead's dad, Gus, thank you. Your son helped open up 2 sacks for my son. Eric Armstead working against those double teams on the inside. Nick Bosa's helping out create a whole bunch of sacks for other players. So this is a team sport. That's the beauty of football. And Nick Bosa was very good in the context of the team sport, and so was Eric Armstead. This was a monumental game for big-time 49ers pressure numbers. Drake Jackson had 5 pressures in those 3 sacks, so he turned into TJ Watt, working alongside the other 49ers defensive linemen. Eric Armstead had 5 pressures. Nick Bosa had 3 pressures. Javon Hargrave, I believe, had 3, broke through with a sack there at the end. Chris Kasarik likes to rush in waves, and he likes his defensive linemen to rush as a unit. And against Pittsburgh, you saw the 49ers, expose the Pittsburgh tackles, but also expose their guards. We said that the Steelers didn't have great tackles. We thought their guards were good, and they might be good, but the 49ers defensive line is so talented that they made those guards look bad. There was pressure galore, and there was one more player who I thought was very, very good, who's not being talked about enough, and that's Clelin Ferrell. Former high draft pick, number 4 overall, right behind Nick Bosa in the 2019 draft of the Raiders. And Clelin didn't really produce, especially up to his draft status with the Raiders in Oakland and Las Vegas. But he's a good football player. And, the argument is, and it's probably a correct one, that he shouldn't have been drafted by Mike Mayock that high in the first round. Maybe he should have gone a little bit lower in the first in the round. The point, though, is that he's got first-round talent. There was a reason that the Raiders drafted him that high, and there was a reason that most prognosticators had him going in the first round, and it's because he's physically rigid against the run, and he's got some pop to him. He's got some burst to him that he can combine with the strength to beat tackles in one-on-one situations. There was a play yesterday where Fred Warner dropped an interception. The reason that Kenny Pickett threw that ball so dangerously, and it should have been an interception, is because Clelin Ferrell just ripped around left tackle Dan Moore Jr. and got to Kenny Pickett. It was a power move combined with a little bit of speed, and it was awfully impressive. And then Ferrell's all over the tape when it comes to setting a hard edge against the run. There was a play early on where you saw the Steelers try a little sweep. I think it was their second or third play of the game. And Clelin Ferrell was all over it, setting the hard edge. That's what the 49ers brought him in. I think they kind of envisioned Clelin playing that base down 4-3 edge spot while Drake Jackson comes in during passing downs. But if Clelin Ferrell can give you pressure-making ability in pass-rushing situations on top of what he's doing against the run, it's a huge bonus, because the 49ers can be more interchangeable. They can keep coming in waves on that defensive line. We saw 2 of the best defensive fronts in football yesterday. At least 2 of the 2 most talented defensive fronts in football yesterday, in the Steelers and the 49ers. Well, 49ers looked a whole lot better than the Steelers, and the 49ers are going to be competing to have the title of the top defensive line in football. It is not only about the box score. It is about the advanced look at the game. And the advanced look at the game shows us that Nick Bosa was damn good. Eric Armstead was damn good. And Nick Bosa's got some bookends. And Drake Jackson, who turned into TJ Watt for an afternoon with 3 sacks. And obviously guys like Clelin Ferrell. That was the biggest question of the 49ers offseason, right? Would they get that bookend to Nick Bosa? Well, first returns are really good because between Jackson and Ferrell and a lot of other guys, looks like the 49ers have a stable of deep defensive linemen.